A few months ago, I reviewed Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I don't mind telling you that I loved this Call of Duty. After years of a stale multiplayer combat loop, Black Ops 4 felt legitimately fresh, with revised time to kill, excellent map design, class design, and the typical on-point gunplay you've come to expect from Treyarch. I wasn't alone in this view either. A lot of people, even some of COD's biggest critics, begrudgingly conceded that this was a good Call of Duty game. I honestly felt happy to see this because I was really questioning my own judgment about this. Like, am I sure this is good? Maybe it's not good and I'm just shit at reviewing games. What's wrong with me? Why do I like COD all of a sudden? Knowing that other people were also enjoying it made me realize that I wasn't crazy. I ended up being quite proud of that review because I was genuinely happy for Treyarch, who had clearly put in a lot of work to create something good when a lot of people were throwing a lot of hate at them along the way. So why then, after all of that, am I deleting my Call of Duty review from my channel today? A few weeks after the release of the game, when the review cycle was well and truly wrapped up, Treyarch and Activision turned on the microtransactions. We all knew this was coming at some point, and we all had low expectations because we all knew Call of Duty was nothing if not avant-garde with the way it sought to fleece money from players. Plus, you know, Activision. Still, what we got was pretty scummy even against the backdrop of those low expectations. The Battle Pass system that was implemented would require upwards of 200 to 300 hours of grinding to unlock the contents of a single Battle Pass. And since this wasn't possible for the overwhelming majority of players, the intention to push people towards spending was clear. Now, for the record, I actually think this is sort of an okay principle, but the execution was just far too greedy. I think it's fine for a game developer to sell a $60 game and deliver its value on launch, and then look for ways to monetize beyond that if the game is going to get regular updates. The problem with COD is that it already monetizes its regular updates through its now out-of-date Season Pass model. This is one of the few multiplayer games on the market that still charges for map packs, where most other companies, even EA for God's sake, have realized that this splits the player base and results in a shitty experience for everyone. So on top of the $60 price tag and the Season Pass, you also have microtransactions as part of the Battle Pass, and the Battle Pass is tuned in such a way where it's just inaccessible to people unless they spend. All of this put together is just greedy as fuck. Today though, I learned that Treyarch and Activision have added a new purchasable item to the game for the price of 100 coins, which may as well be around $3 or $4 US, since that's the smallest amount you can purchase of this bullshit microtransaction currency. This item, which is being sold for real money, is a red dot reticle. It's a fucking red dot reticle. It's just a dot that appears in the middle of your screen. It's a dot. For me, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so grossed out by this that I just deleted my review from YouTube. I won't help sell copies of this game. In fact, the more people I can dissuade from buying this product at this point, the better. And just to be super clear, it isn't just the red dot reticle that's forced me to take this review down. It's about the overall implementation of microtransactions into Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and how much they are taking the piss. Plus, it's a red dot for Christ's sake. I'm sure many of you will think, serves you right, skill up, you should have waited for the microtransactions before you started reviewing it, and that's fair, but it also doesn't reflect the reality of the modern day review cycle and just how sneaky publishers have become. See, publishers now know that reviewers don't like microtransactions, and they'll devote significant column inches to them in their reviews. So what the publishers are doing now is they release the game without the microtransactions, so the reviewers can't offer a review on them, and then they release the microtransactions later on once the review cycle is well and truly complete. Metacritic score is nice and high, copies get sold, the install base grows nice and fat, so it can then be milked when no one's looking. Unfortunately, there's just no way around this for a reviewer. People want to know on day one, is this product worth the price tag? Reviewers are compelled to answer that question because that's their job, and waiting 2 months to review a game just isn't feasible for those people, except in the most specific of circumstances, where the reviewer has achieved such brand recognition that people are still interested to hear what this person has to say months after a game's release. For reviewers, when a game changes considerably from its launch offering, there's really only two options: either pull your review or do a re-review. I don't think doing a re-review of Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is useful because its core gameplay has not changed. It's just shitty monetization on top of that game that has ruined my view of it. As such, pulling the review is the best course of action I can take, so I'm taking it. Perhaps I'm overreacting here, in fact I probably am, but the sale of a reticle, especially one as basic bitch as this, just feels like such an effrontery. I liken it to going to a restaurant and being charged for a napkin or a straw. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't ever patronize a restaurant that tried to nickel and dime me like that, no matter how good their food was. And I sure as shit won't be helping Treyarch and Activision sell copies of their game if they're gonna treat consumers like this. More than anything, it just makes me feel like the developer and the publisher have no fucking pride in what they've created. If they're willing to cut it up into tiny, insignificant pieces and sell it off like this, then they clearly don't respect their own product at all. If they don't respect it, then how can I be expected to? So yeah, sure, maybe I'm overreacting, but frankly I don't care. This is just such a contemptible, greedy, classless form of monetization that I'm more than happy to be labeled oversensitive on the matter. And can I just say as well that this makes me legitimately sad for a lot of the people working at Treyarch. When I put that review out, I had multiple developers from Treyarch tweet out my review and message me to say thank you. One of them told me they had tears in their eyes as they watched that review. Clearly, there are a lot of people who work at Treyarch who are deeply passionate about their craft, and they poured their heart and soul into a game over many years, and they were thrilled to see that their work had paid off, and that so many people were loving this new Call of Duty. But the people with their hands on the purse strings, they don't care about that. They see a fucking red dot and see a chance to make money, and in so doing, they undermine the work that all of those developers put in. I honestly do wonder if these money people understand the long-term implications of their actions. See, for people in these roles, monetization consultants, finance people, executives, they don't care about the long term. Their compensation packages are focused on short-term incentives and KPIs. They hit their bonus that year if a game hits X dollars in microtransaction revenue, and they could give two fucks about what happens next year because they're going to be in either a new role or a new company, either because they quit or they were made redundant. And this isn't even factoring in the pressure of listed companies, where shareholders demand not only profit, but growth. And if your game isn't making much more money than the last game, it's labeled a failure. You're seeing a collapse in gaming stock prices at the moment. Much of this is attributable to the general decline in tech stocks, but I firmly believe that just as much of it is explainable by the conduct of these large companies. A year ago, I put out a video titled The Wilson Loot Box, which speculated that EA would decline over the coming year as its brand eroded with the core gaming audience, and its loot box driven revenue model would come under attack. Lo and behold, of all the gaming publishers suffering hard times, EA is suffering the most, with its share price down 52% from its 12-month high, while things are projected to get even worse as Battlefield 5's long tail revenue suffers after a disappointing launch. Activision is also down 45% from its previous high, owing to the disappointing performance of Destiny 2's launch. You know what Activision executives said they're going to do to fix Destiny 2? Explore additional monetization options. That really upsets me because monetization in Destiny 2 is actually in a pretty good spot at the moment, as anyone who's playing Destiny 2 will tell you. And I genuinely worry that we might see Bungie add new reticles that we could purchase. When you charge me for a reticle, what you say to me as a consumer is, you are a commodity to me. I do not care about my relationship with you. I'm trying to get as much money from you as I possibly can. Fuck you. I have exactly the same relationship to EA and Activision as I do to a bank or a phone company. I expect them to provide me with a service, but I expect them to fleece me every step of the way. As such, should another company offer me a better deal, I will immediately jump ship to that alternative because I have no connection whatsoever to those companies. They mean absolutely nothing to me. In fact, it goes further than that, to be honest. Like, I know this sounds bad, but I would honestly be really happy if EA and Activision went out of business. Like, I honestly would. I would love to see BioWare go independent again. Imagine if Bungie went independent and sought to remake itself in the image of CD Projekt Red. Imagine Respawn games being published by an organization that had the same principles as Devolver Digital. EA and Activision, I do not believe these companies advance our industry. I think they just feed off it, parasitically. Their intellectual and creative energies long spent. Their senior leaders sitting decadently on a laden ship they hope to plunder as they knowingly or unknowingly steer straight into the iceberg of anti-consumerism. I look at the rise of Paradox, Devolver Digital, CD Projekt Red, and a number of other smaller publishers, and I see in them a strong focus on treating me, the consumer, with respect. As a result, when Devolver puts something out, I will take a look at that game, even though I don't know the developer involved or what kind of game it might be. I respect Devolver enough to do that. That's worth something in the marketplace. When EA or Activision release something, I can only greet it with absolute skepticism, the value of which is greatly undervalued by stock analysts and valuers, but I think they're becoming more and more alive to it by the day. I know this has descended into an anti-publisher rant, but it really just pains me to see a good game ruined by such classless, grasping greed. Warframe's developers, Digital Extremes, often speak about an icky factor that drives a lot of their decision making. They look at ways to monetize their game and they ask, does this feel icky? And if the answer is yes, then they don't do it. Simple. As such, Warframe has a thriving player base across 4 platforms and is the darling of known monetization skeptics like Jim Sterling and the late Total Biscuit. These guys went to bat for this developer, just as I do, because I know that these developers respect their product and they respect the consumers that purchase that product. Treyarch and Activision are possessed of no such scruples, and as such, I'm compelled to act in what little way I can. To the passionate developers at Treyarch who have poured their heart and soul into making this fine game, I hope this video and those like it are projected onto the wall at the next monetization meeting, so that you might be better armed against the greedy money people who seek to pick clean the bones of your creation like so many vultures.